This man is a soccer writing machine based in the thriving metropolis known as Nashville, Tennessee, where Seattle's next opposition happened to be based. They're coming to Lumen Field this weekend. So it's my pleasure to welcome in right now. I'm going to add him to the stage. My buddy Ben Wright. Ben, welcome in. Thanks for doing this. How are you doing this evening?
What's up, my man? I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. It's a little bit later here in Nashville, but you know what? I have coffee going, and I'm ready to do this.
Yeah, appreciate you staying up with us West Coasters to talk about this game. Ben, I didn't even honestly know how to introduce you title-wise. You have so many things, different hats that you wear. You and I work together on the MLS soccer editorial staff, where you're on our sterling team of match night writers. You always do great work with those stories and the siders that we do for those games. But you've also got an independent outlet, right? 615 Soccer going on. You're doing stuff with Backheeled. You're doing stuff with Give Me Sport. Shout out Tom Bogert. Before we get into this game here, anything that you would like to shill or promote, where people can find your work, or just what you've got going on these days, which is a lot?
Yeah, it's hard to keep track of. Honestly, don't know how my wife puts up with it, so shout out to her off the bat. Yeah, I think if we're plugging stuff, I'm going to plug 615soccer.com. It's a new Nashville SC site that we started just this past January. Honestly, I think we kind of took a lot of tips from Sounder at Heart. Definitely Backheeled. Just kind of thinking what if we were fans of Nashville SC, what we would want to get to read and see about the team every week. And so, yeah, we launched this new Nashville SC website, and I think we've just been absolutely blown away by just the response we got. We kind of set a goal that we wanted for subscribers before the season started, and we like 4x that within a week of launching it. So I think it was just really cool to see. I mean, I think we all knew that soccer in Nashville was kind of on the up. I mean, they have a 30,000 seat stadium. They sell a decent amount of tickets. Like, people around here seem to care, but we were kind of just blown away by how many people were like off the bat interested in this project and supported it. So I think it was just maybe a little bit of validation that something cool is happening here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, ever since Nashville entered the league, I think the response from the city has been phenomenal. And Geodis Park is definitely on my list. It's one of the nicest, like, it's a state-of-the-art facility. It looks great on the broadcast, but the atmosphere at those games looks incredible. And it seems like, would you say the interest has sustained since the launch? Has it waned at all? Or what's the kind of status of the club in the city?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think it was huge at the beginning, right? Just,
Yeah.
I mean, new team, maybe a little bit of that waned in the second year in Nissan Stadium, but then new stadium, it felt like it was right back in there, and then like Nashville just got bad. So from like halfway through 2023 through 2024, I think it definitely dipped a little bit just because the team was losing. They also just weren't playing attractive soccer. I think you can probably get fans. You can get fans in the stadium if you're winning games, or if you're playing soccer that's fun to watch. And if you're doing neither of those, it's a hard ticket to sell. So I think there was definitely a dip. And I think maybe it hasn't quite fully recovered from that. I mean, but they're winning games now, and they're playing like legitimately fun soccer under BJ Callahan. So I think I'm optimistic that people will start getting back in. I think you're probably starting to see a little bit of that. But I mean, once it starts really warming up here, I think over the summer we should see something similar to what we saw back when the stadium first opened.
Yeah, I think that's a good segue into the first thing I wanted to ask you, which, so what I've been doing when I bring in guests to ask about Seattle's upcoming opposition is the first thing I do is I give you my perception of the team as an outsider, and then you can tell me if what I think as an outsider neutral actually matches up with what's going on the ground with the team, game in, game out. So Nashville SC. So I admittedly haven't watched a ton of Nashville SC this year, but so I started digging in a little bit this week, and what I have gathered is that a lot of the underlying numbers seem to show that they are playing really great attacking soccer at times in terms of like the build up and the movement and the chance generation and perhaps even the quality of the chance generation, but they're not racking as many goals as they should based on all of those factors. So it's like the soccer looks good, but there's quite a bit of meat on the bone. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, I mean, 1000%. I actually, BJ Callahan had his pre-match presser this morning. I forget who asked him the question, but someone asked him basically how he would evaluate. He said at the start of the season he wanted to get to score 50 goals at least. Like that was kind of a benchmark, and I think he had some kind of historical data about how if you score 50 goals, you're pretty much guaranteed to make the playoffs. They're on track for that now, and someone asked him how he would evaluate the offense, and he said, I think paraphrasing here, but I think we're playing well, but we've left a lot of chances on the table too. Like we're scoring goals, we're creating chances, but we can still take it up another level. And I think that's totally fair. I mean, they've missed a decent amount of penalties already this season. I think 3 penalties so far that they've missed. So just that should be more goals, but they're creating a ton from open play that they haven't quite found the finishing touch. Hani Mukhtar has missed, I think, 2 shots from like within the 6-yard box. One of them hit the post from kind of point blank range. It's the kind of chances that you would expect them to bury pretty consistently, and it's just not quite there. Which would probably be concerning if they were losing games, but they're still managing to get results even with these missed chances. And I think I'm optimistic that things will start clicking, and if they keep creating this level of chances, then more goals will start coming. But it's been, I mean, I think 19 games under BJ Callahan, which isn't that long, and I think he's already turned things around pretty significantly in his first year. So I think it's been a lot better. It's gotten a lot better, a lot quicker than I certainly expected.
Yeah, I mean, I found it concerning from a Seattle perspective to kind of see how well they've been playing in attack, because usually when you're generating chances at the clip they seem to be and you're not finishing them, that's the type of stuff that tends to even out. I mean, God knows the Seattle Sounders have done enough XG merchanting over the last year or so, but it seems like that's sort of the situation they've been in. But they are playing well. That kind of leads into the next thing I wanted to talk about, which is my other perception of Nashville, really since they came into the league, is that it's been a bit of Haney Mukhtar or bust. Under Gary Smith, the game plan seemed to be, all right, give the ball to number 10 and just kind of let him do some cool stuff, and he'll score some goals and get the assists. And then, but that's it. Like if he is having an off game or if he's injured or if he has to rotate out, nothing. Like there's no plan B. There's no like alternative way to generate offense. And to me, looking at how Nashville has started this year, it seems like BJ has kind of figured out how to make the attack more multifaceted and not just only Haney Mukhtar. Is that something that you've observed, or how has the team evolved into being more multifaceted?
Yeah, I think they're probably still evolving a little bit to be more multifaceted. I think Hani is still like insanely important. Maybe not to scoring the goals as much as he had been. I think it was pretty recent. It was like maybe as recently as 2023, he had either like scored or assisted 60 something percent of Nashville's goals, like total goals in MLS, which is, I mean, good for him, but also kind of yikes. Like you can't be that reliant on one guy. I mean, to be fair, he was playing at an MVP level for probably 2 seasons. So like when you have a guy in that form, you can kind of ride it for a little while, but there was nothing else. I think last year they, no, 2023, I'm getting my years mixed up. He scored like 16 goals or something like that, and the next closest guy was at around 5. So I mean, there was just a pretty huge drop off, and they've been very reliant on him. I think they're still pretty reliant on him, but it's not so much to like score the goal, but he's kind of he's turned into more of a playmaker for them. He'll kind of drop into pockets underneath Sam Surridge and get the ball, move it out to one of the wingers, and he's kind of playing the pass before the pass a little bit more than we've seen from him. So I think it's a little bit of a different role. So they're not, maybe they don't live and die by Hani scoring like they used to, but I think he's still like, I mean, he's a DP, so he's important, but I think he's just a pretty massive part of this team still.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's one of the most talented players in the league, and really, like you said, there was like a 2-year stretch there where it was just electric every time he was on the ball, and the output was staggering. I mean, he was up there with any of the best players in the league that you want to name over that time period. The Lucho Acostas, maybe the Carlos Velas. Name them. Hani Mukhtar was up there with the best of them. If not the best definitely for periods of time. I remember another storyline with Nashville SC for quite some time was, there's the reliance on Hani Mukhtar, and then the extension of that was they need a DP number 9, and that's what's missing from this roster. If they get that, that's going to unlock a lot more because Hani Mukhtar is going to have someone to play off of and give his service to. And so that seemed to be like the main thing that everyone was kind of pining for the team to do. They go out and they get Sam Surridge. My impression of Sam Surridge was that it honestly wasn't going that well for a while. I feel like when he first got to the team, he was either not producing, injured, or both. But then it seems like kind of towards the back end of last year, he started to heat up a little bit, and then he's had a pretty good start to this year. How do you see the 1-2 with Hani Mukhtar and Sam Surridge progressing? And do you feel like it's at a point where Surridge is really providing that 1-2 punch in the way that he was supposed to when he first got to the club, but maybe hasn't consistently yet?
Yeah, I think I don't know. It feels a little bit tough to fully judge him. I thought he was really good last year with not much to work with. I think he scored 12 goals in all competitions or something like that. And I mean, the service was pretty limited, and I thought he did a pretty good job for what he had. But I mean, they paid 6 or 7 million for him, so I think expectations were like he's going to come in and be kind of one of the close to the top end of strikers in MLS, and I don't think he's lived up to that. But I was shout out to American Soccer Analysis. I was looking at their XG tables, and I mean, he leads MLS in expected goals right now. I think there's 2 penalties in there, so that maybe shift things a little bit. But I mean, he's getting tons of chances in this Nashville team, and I think probably for he and Hani, they've gotten a lot of chances, and they just haven't been clinical yet. They've missed a lot of. I mean, they've missed shots that they should be scoring, but they've also just the two of them have had just a lot of misconnections in the penalty area. Like one of them will be wide open, and the other will take a shot instead of passing it, and it just feels like they're both getting into really good spots, but they're leaving a lot on the table, kind of like what we talked about earlier. And their win against Real Salt Lake this last weekend, towards the end of the first half, there had been 2 or 3 chances where one of them had the ball in the box and just missed the other one, or played the wrong pass, or took a shot from a bad angle instead of laying it off. 3 of those right before halftime, and the 2 of them were literally screaming at each other walking off the field, pretty pissed off. It I mean, you see players kind of yelling at each other, and that in the heat of the moment, this felt like a little bit extra. And then at the very end of the game, Hani wins a penalty. He'd already missed 2 penalties this season. He sets the ball down like he's going to take it, and then at the last minute, he hands it off to Sam Surridge. Sam Surridge scores, and then they hug, and it's no one even remembers that. So I think it's the type of thing that they are getting the ball in really good spots. They're not consistently finishing those, and I think they're probably feeling a little bit of frustration and maybe even pressure to start converting those. So yeah, I don't know. That was a very long-winded answer, and a long-winded way of saying I think they're getting into really good spots, and I think it's probably going to click at some point. But it's been really frustrating through the first 8 games because it does feel like they each should probably have 2 or 3 goals more than they do.
They're XG merchanting. It's
Sure, yeah.
exactly what Seattle was doing for a lot of last year, where it was so frustrating every week because they would drop points, they wouldn't take results. But I would always come out of the games being like, man, I swear they actually played pretty good.
I mean,
the buildup was good. The chance generation wasn't bad. They just couldn't finish to save their lives. And it sounds like it's a similar idea.
100%. I mean, so they beat RSL. Then before that, they had consecutive losses to Cincinnati and to Charlotte. They outplayed. I mean, I thought they outplayed Cincinnati pretty consistently. They probably should have scored 2 or 3 goals. They gave up a penalty kick in stoppage time and lost 2-1. Then they went to Charlotte, and I think they played maybe their best half ever under BJ Callahan in the first half. I mean, they outshot Charlotte. I mean, you guys played Charlotte earlier. Elite defensive team. Nashville outshot them, I think 7-0. Went into halftime up 1-0. They probably should have scored 3 or 4 goals. and then eventually collapsed in the second half stoppage time. So coming into last week, and they had lost 2 games against good teams, and I think it was weird because I was maybe more optimistic after the 2 losses than I was before them, just because I'm like, I mean, result wasn't great, but Nashville had outplayed 2 of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. Um, so yeah, I don't know. Maybe the performances haven't quite matched up with the results. But I think just by the eye test and even by the underlying numbers, I think Nashville are playing really well.
Yeah, that's the exact impression that I got from even looking into it a little bit. I could tell right away that the results haven't been matching up with how well they've been playing. I did want to ask you about BJ Callahan because this was an interesting hire. The discourse around BJ Callahan when he took over as interim coach of the U.S. men's national team, I thought was funny because
Yeah.
they legitimately that's the best that team has looked in the last probably 5 years when BJ Callahan was the interim head coach. And at the time, people were like, "Oh, BJ Callahan, he figured it out. He's got this team doing stuff that Berhalter never could."
Yeah.
And I just was always like, "All right, he was on the staff. Would you think he
Right.
really told them anything that different?" But you do have to admit that the U.S. MNT was playing a lot better when he was the coach, and then also, frankly, since he left and now they've hired Pochettino, they suck again. So maybe there actually was more to that than I was acknowledging. But as far as how he's done at the MLS level so far, it seems like he's actually meaningfully moved the team on from the Gary Smith era, which the Gary Smith era was honestly a little brutal at times. Like I said, it was Haney Mukhtar or bust, but also Nashville was known for being like a defense first team. Like, we're gonna keep a clean sheet first and foremost, maybe hit you on the counter, let Haney do some stuff. But really, like, Gary Smith ball, I feel like was defensive and conservative, not that entertaining always. And basically what you're describing and what I've looked into and seen is that BJ has them playing like attractive, entertaining soccer in a way that the Gary Smith teams, they just didn't really do that much. So I guess, what have you seen from BJ that's like, what is he doing differently to impart that style? And then what's just it like covering him day in, day out? What do you think of him as a coach?
Yeah, I mean, so taking the second part first, I mean, first of all, he's just like a super nice guy. He's super personable, like really open with the media. Um, like I've been surprised just like how generous with his time he's been. He had like a lot of the media out to the training facility within the first couple weeks after he took over, and basically spent the whole day with us. He gave us like a similar video presentation to kind of what he walked the players through when he first took over the job, just kind of like showing how he wants to play and his vision for the club. Um, he like answered all our stupid tactical questions, and like so I think he gets the media side um, really well, and that so it just selfishly it's been fun covering that just because he's fun to work with. He's easy to work with, and I think he kind of understands that side of things. Um, just on the field, he's insanely detail oriented, and I had talked to some people around the league when they first made the hire, and they were like the first thing that everybody said was he's detail oriented and maybe the hardest working guy in MLS. And I think that's definitely kind of um, proven to be true. Just seeing him in Nashville, he like every player knows exactly what they're supposed to be doing at every time. They all have like very specific, not just roles, but like roles within each sequence of play, and so he has everything drilled out really well. Um, but I think from what I've seen, I think he's doing a really good job of putting everybody in a pretty sound structure that they all understand, but then kind of letting that turn into freedom, which I don't know if that makes sense. How um, I think everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing so much that that Nashville's on the same page, and then within that, there's room to improvise just because they understand what everybody else is doing. So I think he's just kind of completely reestablished how this team plays. Gary Smith was, like you said, very defensive, very rigid, but I don't think had a ton of like predetermined patterns or rotations or anything like that in the attack. And Callahan has come in and just like off the bat established some like pretty repeatable ways to create chances to move possession forward, but also just gotten everybody on the same page from from the top to the bottom of the organization. Like he's aligned the MLS club with MLS Next Pro with the academy, and so I think you're seeing a lot more youth development than you ever saw under Gary Smith. I mean that was probably one of the biggest knocks on Gary, who I mean I think probably did a no, definitely did a really good job kind of
He did, yeah.
establishing the floor for Nashville. I mean, if you had
Yeah.
told them they would be a competitive team, make the playoffs every year under Gary Smith, they would have bitten your hand off. So I think retrospectively, it's easy to kind of dunk on Gary for playing boring soccer. But I think Callahan's kind of just come in and taken a necessary step forward for Nashville and just turned them into a more modern, proactive club.
Right. Well, you can't deny that the Gary Smith ball was effective, and I actually think that the way Nashville went about the launch, hiring like an MLS experienced coach like that, and then kind of creating a style and identity that gave you like a solid competitive floor, and they did. It's not like they were splashing cash like Atlanta
Yeah.
United. They did on
If you're not going
Hany
to
Mukhtar,
spend a
but
ton of money,
yeah.
like that, you kind of have, you can either come in and spend a ton of money and play like great soccer off the bat as an expansion team, or you can do the Nashville route, or I
Yeah.
mean, you could go Cincinnati or Minnesota. But I think
Right. That's the route you want to avoid. Though.
right, yeah,
Like what Nashville did is what Cincinnati and Minnesota should have done,
I think
but
tried
didn't.
and or even tried to do like Cincinnati. I think tried to go that route and just failed miserably.
Well, remember they brought up like their entire USL squad, which
Right.
that was like mistake number one. And then didn't they like stock up on super draft picks at one point?
Yep.
And they were basically trying to build it through their. I think they felt this loyalty to the USL guys because they were the best team in the USL, and they were like, we dominated USL with these guys. I bet they can hang in MLS. And then immediately it was just like, nope. And then that launch and season was a disaster. It took them years to get out of that. So like what Nashville, unless you got LAFC or Atlanta money, what Nashville did is kind of what you got to do. And I think you're right that it seems like BJ Callahan is sort of like imparting the next step of the evolution, which is okay, you're competitive, you're one of the good teams in the league. Now go try and be great. Go try and be a team that actually can dominate, can like play attractive soccer, score a bunch of goals. So it seems like that's what they're in the process of trying to do right now. And it seems like it's kind of working. Like, in finishing woes aside, like the soccer that they're playing is just much better from an entertainment and aesthetic perspective than it was under Gary Smith. And it's really like not a knock on Gary Smith. Like he did what he was supposed to do, and it was quite effective. So
Totally. And
yeah.
I don't think it was. I don't know if Gary Smith was ever supposed to have been the manager as long as he was. I think he kind of became a victim of his own success in a way because, like, I think he was very much supposed to be the transitional manager to kind of get Nashville into MLS and kind of build the foundation. And then he kept winning and kept getting into the playoffs, and Hany Mukhtar won MVP. And it's like, okay, you kind of got to keep rolling with this. And it worked until it didn't. But yeah, I think they just, like, even just from a a youth development perspective, Gary hardly played any players under the age of 23. Maybe in the first year or so when they kind of had to play the super draft guys just because they're an expansion team and didn't have anybody else. But then it kind of just dropped off. And like Mike Jacobs, their CSO has, I mean, he's pointed out, like, you can't be a successful club in MLS at this point and not play young players when everybody else in the league is like creating and developing and playing their own talent. Like, you're at a pretty massive disadvantage if you're not doing that. And so I think even I would put it almost parallel to the results on the field. I think Callahan was brought in large part just because he came through Philadelphia's academy and has kind of that development background too. And so I think Nashville are kind of banking on him being able to take their development plan up a level as well.
What's the situation with the Nashville Academy? Because I honestly haven't heard much about like their youth development setup at all. I think every club has got a youth academy now. So I know they have one.
They
but
started theirs in,
yeah,
they didn't, I think a lot of expansion teams end up starting their academies before they start playing, and Nashville didn't. The first year of their academy was 2020. and they started with U13s. So you're just seeing a lot of those guys now who started with the academy hit like 17, 18, 19 years old. Um, and so I think you're really starting to see like the first wave of guys who could be signing with the first team. They have 3 homegrown signings. Um, Isaiah Jones, Adem Sipic, and then Chris Applewhite, who just signed this offseason. And I think of the 3, Applewhite is kind of like the guy who seems like he has real MLS potential. He's a 17-year-old center back. He started the most. He just turned 17 like late last fall and started the most minutes of any center back for Huntsville in MLS Next Pro last year. So like he was a full-time starter at the Next Pro level as a 16-year-old. Um, and so I think they're pretty high on him. He's really good with the ball. He's like just a huge guy for a 17-year-old, and I think he has a little bit of development to do, but he has like all the physical tools to be like a pretty high level center back in the MLS. So, yeah, I think they're still trying to really like turn the academy talent into Next Pro and MLS talent, and I think Nashville is just not like a super hotbed of talent like you get in other places around the league. But I mean, I think they're starting to make it work.
Yeah, I'll be keeping tabs on that because I mean you're right. Like if you actually take your youth development seriously and generate first team players, it can give you such a leg up on the competition. And I mean, Seattle has benefited a lot from that over the years. I mean, Jordan Morris is obviously the biggest example, but like in recent years, they've gotten to the point where they're playing for the first team, and you've had guys like Danny Leyva, Obed Vargas has broken out, and they traded Josh Atencio for 1.3 million. So you can start doing stuff like that when these players come to fruition. So let's see if Nashville can do that.
Yeah,
Ben.
I actually asked BJ about that this morning, and he said
Oh, okay.
I forget exactly what his line was, but he basically said Seattle's like the model club for getting production like at all levels of the like MLS Next Pro Academy and kind of moving guys from that. So I mean, he was super complimentary of just the job Seattle's done.
Yeah, I think FC Dallas is in that conversation. The Philadelphia Union are in that conversation.
Yeah.
But like it's a pretty strong correlation between the clubs that take it the most seriously and get the most out of it, and the clubs that are successful. The Union famously Moneyball, and then just have an army of academy kids that are all good. Like they did
It's wild.
they traded Jack McGlynn for a bunch of money, and they have like probably 5 others. Like that's just how it goes. Ben, I wanted to ask if you had to name a non-Hani Mukhtar or Sam Surridge player for Nashville who like makes the team go, stirs the drink. Like who has been one of the maybe unsung guys that people wouldn't know about in the early going that's sort of fueling the better ball that they've been playing to start the season?
Yeah, so I think 2 kind of immediately come to mind. Eddie Taxeth is the first. I mean, you'll see on Saturday. The dude is just everywhere. I think he's already run something like 64 miles this season through 8 games. He's like everywhere in midfield. He kind of reminds me of a younger Dax McCarty. He's kind of like the same build, like 5'7" type guy who's just like a terrier. He's all over the place, like doesn't ever back down from a challenge. I think he probably likes annoying the opposition almost as much as he likes scoring goals. There's so many, just our photographers have got so many pictures of him like after a foul just kind of like laughing at the guy who he knocked over. Like he's immediately become a fan favorite, but he does all the kind of dirty work for them, but he's also like really quality on the ball. So I think he's kind of been a huge piece of the midfield. And just kind of the changes Callahan's made. I think Texas has been huge to that. And then they've just got a ton of attacking production from both fullback spots. Dan Lovitz, he's been with the team forever, but he has 3 assists and a goal already this year, and he's just been huge. And then Andy Nahar, who, I mean, everybody around MLS knows him, but
Yeah.
he came back from Honduras, and has just been massive for them on the right. And I think Nahar especially, I think everybody kind of knows that he's good with the ball. So it makes sense that he's kind of fit into this more possession-based approach. But Lovitz I don't know if he's reinvented his game or if he's playing in a system that probably, frankly, just fits him better now. But I think both of those guys have been huge.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that, but Lovitz and Nahar might be the best like attacking fullback duo in the league right now. They got to be the most statistically productive when you put it together, or if not, they're near the top there. So I think that's something that Seattle people got to watch out for. Those guys they're gonna go, like they're gonna bomb forward, they're gonna get those crosses in, and they're gonna be on the attack. And I guess that's like a good segue into the game itself, because I mean that is how I would expect Nashville to play. But how are you sizing up this matchup as far as, when teams take road trips to Seattle, they very often consider 1 point successful. They very often sit behind the ball and hunker down, try to absorb pressure, and just get out of there. And like obviously the best teams in the league, they can come in and they try and play their game no matter what. Like, how are you expecting Nashville to go into this game and approach it as far as are they going to be happy if they could get a point here, knowing that the length of the road trip and the challenge of the environment and all that, or are they going to be trying to just play the same BJ ball that they've been playing and really try and push for goals and push for the win?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're probably always happy to draw on the road in MLS, especially.
Yeah,
So like a a point would be a good result, I think. But like with that being said, I mean, BJ pretty explicitly said they're not going to change how they play on the road. I think he said that would be compromising our identity or something like that, which kind of like took me off guard for like how strong it was. Um, and that's not like coach speak either. I think it's been backed up in how they've played on the road this year. I mean, they apart from the who was it? The Red Bulls game, kind of at the start of the year, where they played a 19-year-old kid and a super draft pick in midfield, and they were just kind of caught off guard. Like they've been really good on the road, and I mean they beat Philadelphia on the road. They played Charlotte off the field in the first half, and I think probably would have come away with at least a point and maybe a win if Walker Zimmerman hadn't got a concussion. So like they don't really change how they play. Um, so I don't think they're gonna go to Seattle and sit back. But I do think a team like Seattle can still punish them. I mean, they play really aggressively. They press really high. They do leave space in behind. So I mean, I don't think they're going to change that, but I do think there are ways that you can beat this team.
it's going to be so interesting watching a Nashville team that's like proactive in the attack,
It's
other
been
than just getting the ball to Hani Mukhtar. I don't
it's
know
been a
how I
little
feel
it's
about
been a
that.
little like there have been a couple of times where I'm like catching myself like wondering if this is actually Nashville. Like it's
Who is
just so
this?
different. I think Matt Doyle in one of his columns said like they're one of the 5 most attractive teams to watch in MLS, and I did a double take. Um, so yeah,
That
it's
yeah.
it's definitely it's very different. Like this is not Nashville from even 2024. Like this is a completely different team.
Yeah, no, I think that's clear. Ben, I just got a couple more for you, and then I'll let you go. How is Walker Zimmerman? That was a scary injury that he took a couple weeks ago. Didn't he get bicycle kicked in the head? Isn't that what happened?
Yeah, he cleared the ball right as Kerwin Vargas was going for the bike. Walker got there like a half second before and just caught the full boot in the face.
It was a full boot. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. And like they never confirmed if he was knocked unconscious, and like I don't want to speculate on anything like that, but I mean it looked really bad on the field. I think he got treatment for like almost 10 minutes and then stretchered off in a neck brace. Um so yeah, like not great, and obviously like number one concern is just for his long-term health. I mean, he's a wife and kids, so like
Yeah.
you got to worry about them too. BJ said he's still in concussion protocol. Um, and he like didn't commit to if he was going to play or not this weekend. Like you have to think if he's still in concussion protocol, it's probably not great, especially since he hasn't trained for 2 weeks. Like even even if he gets through, it's probably unlikely that he plays. But it sounds like they're not super worried about long term effects. But they're definitely playing it safe. And I mean, you have to play it safe with that kind of injury.
How has the defense been holding up without him? Would you say that it's been more error prone, or they're giving up more chances, conceding more goals, or anything like that, or have they stayed afloat decently well?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe a bit of a small sample size because it's really been a game and a half, less than that actually. I mean, the last 20 minutes of Charlotte, and then this Real Salt Lake game. And I think against Charlotte, they were just, you could tell that it just threw them off. I think probably like the emotional stuff too, like seeing a guy kicked in the face and then having to keep playing soccer can't be easy.
Yeah.
But they looked really good against RSL. Jason Palacios came in and started for Zimmerman. I don't think anybody really knew what to expect from him. I mean, to be honest, I had never even heard of him before Nashville signed him. He's a 30-year-old Colombian center back. He had like 250 appearances in the Colombian top divisions. So I think was a bit of a wild card, and he came in and was awesome against RSL and looked like he could push for starting minutes once Zimmerman comes back. So I'm interested to see how he does in a very different environment this Saturday, but he looks like the real deal.
Ben, that is all I had for you. Thank you so much for staying up late, joining us here tonight. Really appreciate the time. I asked you at the top, but for anyone who might have joined late, if you want to go ahead and shill any 615, any of the work that you're doing, where can people find your work? Anything you're working on right now?
Yeah, 615soccer.com. You spell it out. It's not the numbers. You can find all of my Nashville coverage there. Joe Lowry and I have a power ranking / analysis column we do every week where we kind of break down all 30 MLS teams at Backfield, and that's just a ton of fun. We've been doing some version of that for the last 2 years, and it's one of my favorite things to write every week. So definitely check that out. Yeah, probably the easiest thing to do is just follow me on Blue Sky, just Ben Wright, and I post to pretty much everything I do out there.
Everybody follow Ben Wright, sub to 615 Soccer. All right, Ben, thanks again. Appreciate the time. We'll have to do it. We'll have to do it again soon. You know, I know you cover the whole league, so I don't even think Nashville has to be playing Seattle for me to get you on. But
definitely down to do this anytime.